Welcome along to another nostalgia trip with the Jack's Throwback Attack podcast. Hello and thanks for giving my podcast a listen. This time around we have some memories of CBBC when it broadcast every day from Television Centre in London, as well as memories of weekend mornings on GMTV's Kids Output and the Disney Channel as well back in the noughties. I hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, so I'm pleased to have with me on the podcast this time Liam Dolan. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Thanks for agreeing to take part in the podcast today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for asking me. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I love it.
Thank you very much. It's nice to have such glowing praise right at the start.
It is. It's so good. It just takes you back on a trip down memory lane, which is full of fond memories.
Indeed, indeed. So yeah, we're going to talk about those glory days of children's television back in the noughties. First off, I just want to ask, how did you break into the world of TV presenting?
Well, I've always worked as an entertainer, and I used to work as a redcoat in Blackpool, and then I went to Disney Cruise Line. So I worked for Disney, and my cousin sent me a message, and this was back in '99, yeah, late '99. And he sent me a message, and he said, "Jamie Theakston's running about jumping out of a helicopter on a telly advert." And I went, "What?" He said, they're looking for people for the BBC." And I went, "Right, okay." He said, "But they're looking for a new face of CBBC, children's television. I think you should enter it." And I was like, "All right." So I was on the ship at the time in America. So I came back and entered the competition, which was called BBC Talent. And back in the day, they were looking for everybody. There was a sports presenter, there was a Radio One news beat presenter, there was radio DJs, writers, and of course, they were looking for the new face of CBBC.
Cool. And so I'm guessing you applied and you had to go through multiple auditions and be whittled
Yeah,
down.
I auditioned. There was 14 and a half. Now, this is really weird because they're weird numbers, but I've told this story so many times that I remember them so well. There was 14,500 people
Hmm.
had applied for the CBBC job. And then that went down to 1,000 people, then down to 83. And the 83, I think, did we all go down to London? Yeah, I think we did. And then from 83 it went to 23. And no, the 23 went to London, and we went into Television Centre, and we had a meeting and all that kind of stuff, and a screen test. And those 23 people got narrowed down to 3. And then there was a live televised programme, and the audience, the studio audience, had to vote for the 3 CBBC presenters. And so it went from that down to me, and I won it.
Great stuff. That must have been quite a journey, really, to go from that many people down to you out of 14,500. That's something quite cool to claim.
Oh, it was great. And at every stage you think, oh, this is it was just very exciting. There was a programme that Vernon Kay did, and they came from Glasgow, and that was part of the initial audition process. So I went up to Glasgow, and then obviously somebody there had seen me and moved it on, and suggested that I went. But to go down to the 3 people, and you think, well, this is because you're getting to do the telly stuff by then, which was just absolutely incredible. And then to have won it, there's a clip somewhere that it's announced that I'm the winner, and I can't speak. I'm so emotional about it, and I just can't say. You know, they're going, "How do you feel?" And I was like, I'm all choked up and all emotional because it's something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, great, fantastic. That's quite a story. And so, how was it really? You know, to go from entertaining on cruise ships to then being on what was something that was watched by quite a number of millions of people on television. I mean, do you remember like your first day and stuff like that?
Yeah, I remember going in, and I'd started in the November, and I was doing just kind of shadowing for a while and watching everyone, and seeing the studio and getting the talk back in my ear and getting used to listening to that and somebody else talking to you, and then we would do CBBC Overseas. It was the choice and the prime stuff. I know
Mm.
that Michael spoke about that as well. And I was laughing when I was listening to Michael Underwood's, because he was like, that's where all the new people went. And also, I don't know if you mentioned this, but we always used to do all the bank holiday stuff when everybody was off and wanted bank holiday
Yeah.
Fridays, weekends, and Mondays. It was like, oh, Liam will do that, and you go, yeah, of course I will. Yeah, of course, don't need a bank holiday because I'm getting to record all this telly stuff. But it was so daunting because it was back in the day of, it was Television Centre, which was only Television Centre then, and you kind of grown up. I had grown up watching this place and that famous iconic building.
Yeah, it was. I visited it once or twice, like the tours that they would do. Remember seeing Pointless being filmed as well towards the end of Television Centre's life, and it's a grand building, and you think, wow, all the stuff that's been recorded here over, what was it, 50 years. It was the BBC Television Centre before it got sold off, and yeah, it is incredible. It must have been something else to walk through there and think, oh, I work here, you know.
Yeah, and just to have the pass, to have your BBC pass and walk in, and then you would pass people in the corridor at a little coffee shop thing, and you would finish filming something, and then you would go upstairs in the viewing gallery, and you'd look down, and there was uh, Joanna Lumley's filming Absolutely Fabulous. And then I
Yeah,
remember I used to be a big fan of Heidi High, and I remember sitting in the canteen at the BBC, and the guy who played Fred Quilly, the jockey, Felix Bowness, I think his name was sitting two tables next to me, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But it was just so, because everybody was kind of in telly world there, and nobody was really phased by it apart from the new people. Me.
yeah. When you knew, yeah. Was there ever a point where you kind of got used to it when you were in Television Centre, or was it always still, still exciting?
It was still exciting. You got to see the same people that were there
Mm.
all the time. Newsreaders and presenters and people like that. But there was a time when we were doing Children in Need was on, and we were doing the stuff at TC9, and it was like, oh, we've got a guest coming over from Children in Need, and I was like, all right, okay, and you can interview him, and I was like, all right, okay, and I thought, I don't know who it is, it's somebody's on, and Terry Wogan came through the door and sat down, and then they're like, right, it's very quickly, Terry's not got a lot of time, and I was thinking, oh my god, I'm interviewing Terry Wogan. I was so like, oh my, I'm really, really nervous. He was so lovely as well, but a huge, huge star.
Indeed, he was. Yeah, that's great. That's a great story, and that must have been quite nerve-wracking to do, actually.
Oh, completely. I was
Yeah.
so nervous, and I said that to him. I said, "This is really strange." I said because I'm feeling new to this, and here I am interviewing you when you're so. And he said, "Oh, don't worry." He said, "You're great." He said, "You'll have a great time, and it's really nice to do it. So nice, great."
Indeed, great stuff. Well, talk us through like an average day doing CBBC. I've asked a few people this, and I'm always interested to hear like the different versions. Like, what time would you kind of come in, and I'm guessing you do like a run through rehearsal, and what time would you finish? Kind of, what would be the
Yeah,
average day?
we would go in kind of normal office hours because we would pre-record the breakfast show in the afternoon. So in the morning we would go in, we'd have a team meeting, we would chat about what was happening that day, that week, and then we would watch all the cartoons. We would have there was a presenter's desk in the corner, which was so everybody else's desk was just kind of officey stuff, and there was there was puppets and there was toys and there was t-shirts and all these things and tapes galore. It was like a blockbuster video because they were just stacked up, and you had and the tellies that had the video on the bottom. So we had to play them, and we'd watch all the cartoons, and we could back ref them, and so we'd do that, and then it would be lunchtime. We'd go to the canteen upstairs that I was just talking about in the East Tower. We'd go up there, have lunch, and then after lunch it'd be into makeup and to get ready for the pre-record in the afternoon, because the studio time was always quite precious because the studio engineers and everybody that was in the studio, camera operators, sound ops, people in the gallery, they were there for the whole time because they would do the pre-recorded breakfast, and then they would do the live, which kind of started, I think, about 3:30 or something. So we had to get it
Yeah.
done quite quick.
And I also remember around that time, and you mentioned it briefly just because we had CBBC between about 3:30 and 5-ish
Yeah,
weekdays. There was also CBBC Choice, which I remember, which was kind of it was like on a loop. It was like 4 hours, and it would loop around like 3 or 4 times through the day. I seem to remember something like that.
That's right, yeah.
And I believe it was pre-recorded. Like, was that recorded in the same studio, or was that separate, or was it? And what time of day was that usually done? Was it in blocks?
It was
Kind of thing?
recorded in the same studio, the one that you would look out into the Blue Peter Garden,
Hmm.
with the big glass wall. But they would have sections of it, so the afternoon would be set up, and it'd be different, not different branding, but
Yeah.
different kind of things that there was programs, and they would have posters and things like that, and pictures and cutouts of people, and then they would just kind of flip the studio around, so you'd be on one side of it filming one section. And then even after, I remember I used to do the birthday cards, and the birthday cards for the Monday were pre-recorded on the Friday,
Right.
but sometimes we pre-record them after the live transmission. So they'd be like, right, quickly turn around, and then you'd sit next to Noddy and the beanbags and all that kind of thing. And but everybody wanted out, and I remember doing 5.5 minutes of birthday cards, and then said, there's more birthday cards tomorrow. Happy birthday if it's your birthday, and right now it's time for the tweenies. And they had to stop and do it all again because it was the Teletubbies.
Oh
And I,
no.
and I got them wrong. But you could see everybody. I mean, it was the end of the week. It was Friday. It was 6 o'clock. Everybody wanted to go out for the weekend. Everybody had plans. A really long week and really busy, and so I wasn't very popular by getting. But I had to do and then had to pretend with all these cards that I'd never seen them before. And like, oh, well, that's lovely. I've just done it 3 minutes ago, but got it wrong.
It's an easy one to mix up. They both begin with T. They're very similar shows, so
Yeah.
they were both very big at the time. It's funny actually. I forgot about the birthday cards. Really, I guess that's just because I don't watch children's television anymore. But that was such a staple part of CBBC every morning or afternoon. The birthday cards with the little windows people would put on them, and
Yeah.
it must have got sackloads of those sent in every single day by the looks of it.
Absolutely, and then you had to be very careful if you picked up, if you picked up a handful of them. We were told not to do that because you would go, just have a handful before we record. Because if I pick up a handful of cards on screen now, for example, and you've sent a card in, you would look and go, "That's my card. It's coming up." So they'd be really disappointed kids because they knew it was going to happen. So you had to do them all individually and one at
Yeah.
a time. But it was great. I mean, it was so good. I loved it.
Who'd have thought there'd be a system to doing birthday cards?
Yeah, I know, right? And then getting
um,
really bizarre because you'd sit and you'd look at your camera, and then there would be another camera on the card, and then there'd be a monitor over there. So you're trying to remember, and then weirdly you're opening up something and talking about it that you can't see because it's on the other side of you. So
yeah,
that was one of those kind of learning things you had to do.
certainly. And the other thing as well, I guess you'd have to be so careful with them because they're made out of paper. You'd easily damage one.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful.
Yes, you had to be very, very careful. And sometimes they just, they get squashed. I mean, they came in thousands upon thousands because everybody wanted to have their kids' card read out on telly.
Yeah, different days. I don't know if that happens as much now, but like I said, I don't watch a lot.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's probably all email now.
That'll be it. Here's a text.
Yeah, a text. Yeah, yeah, definitely. You mentioned that you had to, watch the shows that you were talking about, so you had an idea. Did you have any favourites that you really enjoyed watching around that era?
I used to love all the kind of dramas, your Grange Hills, your Biker Groves, all those kind of things when I was kind of growing up watching it. So when we watched those programs, I really liked it. But the one thing that I remember was Charlie Chalk.
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah,
back again. So when I was 11, I said to my careers advisor at school, she said, "What do you want to be?" And I said, "Oh, I want to be I want to present children's BBC." And she kind of laughed and she said, "Oh, I think you should maybe consider a trade or something, or it's very good to have ambition and all that." She said, "I think you should maybe be a joiner or a plumber or something like that." And I was thinking, there is no way I'm going to do that. So years later, when Charlie Chalk came back, and I had to introduce it for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, this is." It just took me back to that meeting of her going, "No, you'll never get to do that, son. That's don't do that." And that's when I remember going, "Well, never thought I'd say it, but here he is, got a wacky way of walking and a wacky way of talking. It's Charlie Chalk," and that was great. I love doing that.
wonderful. It's nice those stories when people look back at what they were told when they're younger and like, here I am now.
Yeah.
I've had that one a few times over this podcast. It's nice to hear stuff like that. It's funny actually just hearing Charlie Chalk. I'd forgotten about that. There actually used to be a Charlie Chalk's themed like a ball pit place near to where I lived at the
Really?
time. Yeah, so that's my introduction to Charlie Chalk, not the program. The fact that we had a Charlie Chalk's like wacky warehouse type place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they had a few of them across the country. I think I found out recently. Um, the other thing with CBBC as well is various people who were involved in the shows, like the presenters or the actors, would come into the studio, to promote whatever shows coming up. Are there any that you remember, or was like a joy to meet and chat with?
But there was loads of people, and the turnaround was really quick. I remember A1 coming out, all the bands,
Mm.
A1 Steps,
Yeah.
Hearsay was a big fan of pop stars. So when Hearsay came in, I was thinking, this is incredible. They're coming in to chat to us, and I've watched them, so I was kind of starstruck by them. But one of the biggest telly stars that came into the studio, believe it or not, was Brum. Do
Oh
you remember?
yeah, yeah. I remember Brum. Yeah.
Brum came with an entourage of
Oh,
people. It was so it was like really bizarre. I had to be briefed before my interview with Brum. And you go, don't say this and don't say that and don't refer to him as as a character and all these things. And I was thinking, wow, this car's got people. So one of the biggest stars was Brum.
right. Okay. I wasn't expecting that answer.
Oh, that's what it was.
I'm trying to think how does that interview go on? He doesn't speak. I'm guessing he
It's
beeps
all
his
the
horn or
reaction
whatever.
moves and the lights flash and the doors
Yeah.
open and all that.
Remember Brum very well, seeing as I come from very near Birmingham. So
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
great, and of course as well with a lot of CBBC presenters, they'd always be tied to like a puppet. And I remember during your era, was it Emlyn the Gremlin was the main
Emily
one?
Gremlin, yeah.
Yeah.
I just love because I grew up watching. It was Gordon the Gopher and Ed the Duck, and I'll tell you a funny story about Ed the Duck. Actually, I used to be well, I used to live in London, and I was pally with Toby Anstis, and Toby came round to the house, and we were sitting there, he was talking about CBBC, and he said, "I need to get an Ed the Duck," and I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'm doing university stuff." He said, "I have to get an Ed the Duck," and I said, "Well, I've got one." I said, you can have mine." So Toby, so Toby took the Ed the Duck on tour with him, but that was his puppet at the time. Emlyn the Gremlin was mine, and I say it was mine. It was at my kind of time, but he was the character of Emlyn the Gremlin was just so funny, and the guy
Yes.
who created and worked it, and he was funny as well. So you would literally be sitting, the way now that Hacker,
Yeah.
and Phil and all that kind of stuff. It's like I genuinely think they are brilliant, and they work so hard. But Emily and the Gremlin was very, very good fun to work with.
Top stuff. Top stuff. And yeah, out of I mean, I know it was a couple of years, but to try and sum it all up in like one memory. Like, do you have like a top memory from that time, like your favourite moment?
Oh wow, well that's tough, that question, because there was
You
so
can
many.
reel off a few if you want to instead.
I think getting the job was brilliant. I loved all the outside broadcast stuff as well. We used to go away and film, and you
Mm,
know down at Leeds Castle or Michael and I did a thing where we were called two bumbling secret agents called the Liam and Michael Experience. So we were the two secret agents, and the kids would write in and ask us to do things. We went to London Zoo, we climbed the fence, we fed the penguins, we went wing walking in Siren Sister, and it was just like, oh, just brilliant.
good stuff. I remember. Wasn't there like a? Oh, what was it like was it like a? I want to say the phrase "party in the park," but that's not it. But like a live CBBC in a
Proms in the
park
park.
thing. What was it?
Proms,
Sorry,
proms in the park.
proms.
BBC Proms.
That was it.
Um, Again, brilliant. That was another great live event. It was just so good.
Must have been, yeah, yeah. I guess because you've done like the work in cruise ships and entertaining large crowds, it's like a natural thing for you to go and do. All
Yeah.
those people.
Brilliant. And also
Good.
those kind of things that you think you only ever get to go to these things.
Mm.
So when I used to do like the Disney Channel Kids Awards and all that kind of stuff, and you're at the Albert Hall or
Yeah,
Wembley or somewhere, and it's packed, and you're thinking this is brilliant.
good. Um, I just had a random memory come to me actually while you were talking about like the outside stuff, and as you said, the studio looked out onto the Blue Peter Garden, and there was obviously little phoning competitions you do with viewers. There's one that's just come back to me, and I think it was called Busy Bees or something like that, and someone would be dressed in an outfit, and there'd be buckets with 1 to 10 on.
Yes.
And someone would phone in and get a question right, pick 1 to 10. It would either have something nice in it, like confetti, or it would be
Yeah.
gunge.
Yeah.
And I think you did it, and a few other people. Am I remembering right on
Yeah,
this?
no, absolutely. And that was during the summer hot, the holidays on
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah.
The bees had the busy bee had they had a sting in the tail, and you had to pop the balloons. So they
Oh, different game I'm thinking of there. Yeah, what's the
and
one
then,
I'm thinking
but
of?
then that came with the unlucky buckets.
Ah,
The lucky
right,
buckets. So when you pop the balloon, if you got so many balloons, you got to the buckets, and
right.
then somebody was sitting underneath, and the caller would pick 1 to 10. And the guy who dressed up as the garden gnome would come and pull the buckets. I mean, there was everything. There was porridge, custard,
Yeah.
baked beans, slosh. Oh yeah, great.
Because I remember you like hosting that game. Were you ever on the receiving end of the buckets at any point?
Yes, I've been gunged quite a few times in my kids' telly time, um, and it's freezing.
Yeah, I bet.
It has to stay cold to keep the consistency so that it doesn't kind of warm up. Um, and it's that kind of unexpected, the anticipation kind of, you don't know when it's happening.
Mm,
Um, and it goes everywhere. I
yeah,
mean, if you're in the chance of getting guns, it's not just bring a towel and a different t-shirt. It's everything, and I mean everything has to come off and get washed
yeah.
and put back.
I went to go and see the live version of Dick and Dom in the Bungalow because it's their 20th
On.
anniversary. And my friend was one of the lucky chosen ones to go up on stage and be a bungalow head. So they got covered in pies and gunge. I mean, there was an application process, so we were aware, and there was spare changes of clothes. It's funny
Yeah,
actually because there was a game that they did called Two Word Tango, where it was them and an opponent, and they had to say a word on a particular subject, and then they had to say a word, and it was whoever would like stall would
yeah.
lose. And they actually said category naughty CBBC presenters. And
Brilliant.
my friend who wasn't the one taking part in this round kind of looked at me and I just mouthed like I'd be good at this. So I was there thinking up of people, and the person who took part I think stalled after only two or three. So that
That's
would have been fun.
they two are just brilliant. Dick and Dom, and it's chaos because when you're interviewing those two, and I love them both to bits. They're great guys. But when you're interviewing, you're thinking, "Oh, here we go," because there's no point listening to the time in your ear. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You could be reading something off the script, and they go, "You don't need that," and they throw it away, and you're thinking, "I didn't know what," and you've got to just go. And I love that anarchy kind of interview. It's brilliant.
They certainly were. They certainly were. The bungalow was just a mental show, but fondly remembered. I loved it.
Yeah.
So let's move on to some of the other stuff then. So after CBBC, was it about 2 years you did with CBBC, roughly 3 years?
No, I think it was about a year or something, maybe a
Oh,
year and a half.
okay.
Um, and then it was when all the changes were happening. We all went to the big meeting about, the new before CBeebies had a name. They're launching this digital channel, um, and that's when the changes kind of were happening, and they didn't know what was going on. But um, everything kind of changed then. The presenter lineup, the studios changed, the format changed. The viewing times, figures, and everything else had changed. So it was quite a kind of small circle then. Back in the day, so your Nickelodeon. I went and had a meeting with Nickelodeon. I went and had a meeting with GMTV Kids. Who else? I went down to Maidstone and chatted to. The names have just escaped me. Maddie Darrow, yeah, down to all these people. And then I left CBBC at the same time as Michael, and that's when I went to. There was a game called Rocket Race, which was part of the GMTV Kids Dig It program.
Yeah.
So I went to host this. In fact, no, it was before that. I got asked to go in as a guest, and then the two presenters had said to us, "Right, we're going to turn the tables on you. You have to present and interview us." thinking, all right, that's fun. But I didn't realise that was our live screen test. That's
Ah,
we
okay.
found out afterwards. That's what the producers had said. Let's just see how they do it live and see if they can get the gig.
Fair dues, and you did. So you did because it was dig it, then digging it. I don't know why they changed the name.
I think it was
Do
to
you know why?
include the puppet. We had a puppet, a giant character, who was called It,
Mm.
um, and I think if it was just called Dig It, it was just the change, really, a kind of rebranding thing as well.
Yeah.
But I went on with someone else, Danielle Nichols,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I that did the rocket race game, in the summer, and then I got on really well with everybody, and it was really good. And then I got invited to this end of like rap party. I thought it was a rap party, and I lived in Richmond at the time, so it was down on the river. And I went, well, I'll just go to that. What I didn't realise was that I had been offered the job, and the current presenter was leaving, and I went to his leaving party, and I didn't realise it was, and I got his job. But I didn't realize I didn't realize I didn't realize that's what it was. Otherwise, I probably would never have gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. This guy's leaving and his contract's not been renewed and he's not been asked to take over the new program. But the new guy, me, has just turned up and just naivety, I suppose. Um, that's how that's how that happened.
I see, I see. And I was just trying to remember digging it. I remember watching it. Was it just Sunday mornings or was it both weekend mornings? I can't remember anymore.
We were live on a Saturday morning from 7 till 9:25. So it was before SMTV Live. And then on a Sunday, we pre-recorded the Sunday on the Saturday afternoon.
Right, okay. Clever how to do it. You'd never tell though.
There after the live show, quick change, quick bit of makeup, quick bite to eat, and
Yeah.
back in and completely changed. So I had taken over the Sunday section of that as well
Hmm.
as doing the Saturday.
Yeah. And so what was like your memories of doing that? You know, was it just as fun as CBBC? Was it a lot of laughs, guests and that kind of thing who come in?
It was great. It was different because at CBBC we had to do the full week. We were in all the time, whereas with Dig It and Digging It, well, Dig It was live. So when we did Dig It, we were in Teddington, but we used to get up. I mean, it was really weird because I was living in London, and I think it was maybe 23 or 24, and friends would be like, "Oh, we're going out this weekend." Yeah, when we're going out, Friday can't do Friday. Oh, why not? Because I'm in bed at 9 because I'm up at 3 to get showered and ready and go to the studio. But we used to just have a production meeting on the Thursday, meeting on the Friday, and then the Saturday we'd pre-record, we'd do the live show. Then the Sunday it was pre-recorded, so I would be finished work on a Saturday afternoon, and that was me again until the Thursday.
Not too bad.
It was great. It was really weirdly great, but I really enjoyed it. But the program was brilliant, and of course, we were in the middle of London. It was Saturday morning, so everybody was coming in. All the bands that are still around now, all the bands that didn't quite make it, your D sides and Blazing Squads, and all these people. But the best thing we did with digging it was with the sketches. We used to do all the characters and all the sketches, and I was dressed up at one point. I was Pat Butcher, and then we were dressed up as David Dickinson and different school characters, and it was just brilliant. It was great fun.
So you were talking about the sketches you do on Digging It, all the comedy stuff. There was a lot of games as well, and Gungy games, I remember. And on my way up here, I remembered randomly a game. You might have to explain it to me better because I only remember bits. But it was like a grown up or a teacher would have to answer questions, and at the end you were dressed as dinner ladies, and you'd empty like vats of gunge on them or school
Yeah,
dinners.
that's right. It was a little bit. I think it was in homage to Dave Benson Phillips' "Get Your Own Back," and the kids had to nominate who they really want, and the chances are that these teachers or parents or the siblings or whatever it was, they ended up getting goods. And I can't remember what it was called, but I remember it was set in a school dinner. So the whole studio was transformed into this canteen, And I said, it'd be funny if I was a dinner lady, because you didn't really get many dinner men. So we got the wigs department in and the makeup department and everything else, and I became this school teacher. And but the slops were inside. It was all like everything that they could, but that was everything. Because I remember there was a program in Scotland, and I watched this thing, and he had one plate, but on the plate was the mince and the jelly and the cream and everything poured. So it was just revoltingly disgusting, and that's what these people would get all over the top of their heads and things like that. But the kids loved it. I mean, we loved it, and they were all good sports for coming in.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing I remember really. For some reason, children's television around then was just obsessed with gunge and mess. I don't think it happens as much now. Yeah, yeah,
No, I don't think so. It'll be a health and
no.
safety thing now, probably.
Especially when using food and stuff like that. Kind of going back to the Dick and Dom live tour, like I'd applied to be on stage as well as my friend, and you had to like basically say you're not allergic to various things like eggs and dairy and nuts and that because all these things now that you've got to be careful with in these different times. But I suppose for the better, really.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, was it fun as well with digging it because you got to dress up as daft characters? So I guess there was a bit of acting to it as well, not just presenting.
Yeah, it was always kind of, we had a hair salon in one of the dressing rooms transformed into a hair salon called Wiggin' It.
Okay.
So we used to have all these celebrities coming in, and so Abby, who was my co-presenter, she was Chantel, the owner, and I was David Dickinson. But I don't even know why I ended up being David Dickinson in there, but I think I was doing the makeup and the tan,
Yeah.
because he's a Bobby Dazzler, all that kind of thing. And we used to just have these, but the guests are so good. Saturday morning, some of them had been out, doing live PAs and things like that in town until half one, 2 in the morning. They'd come in to us really early, but they got right involved and they absolutely loved it.
Good stuff. It's always nice when that happens. It kind of reminds me of it was a year or two ago when they did that documentary about SMTV and all the pop stars said like, "Oh, we love doing it. We love doing Saturday mornings, and we always hated it when like they said you couldn't or you've just got to come on and do the song and come off. No, we want to take part in the games and that, and
Yeah.
it's mad that really.
Because it's so different. Because if you imagine, if you're on a promo tour and you're S Club 7,
Mm,
and you've got a new single out, people want to hear the new single and chat about the new single. What does it mean? What's it like? Who's the best? This. So the radio interviews they would do up and down the country, all the televised things. So it was kind of monotonous for them, because they would, you would see a difference in a band or a guest if they couldn't get involved.
yeah.
There's no time. They would just be like, we've watched this and we know that, somebody was guns from Blue last week, or somebody, Westlife were in, or so they really enjoyed it because they got to do what we do every week, which is be big kids and have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, why not? Breaks up the monotony of doing tours and PA stuff. So yeah, absolutely. And so, how long did you do Dig It slash Digging It for?
That was for, I think I did the last series of Dig It, um, and then I went on to do Digging It, and I think that was three years, maybe 3.5
Yeah,
years.
think so. Think so. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
was that when it ended? I can't even remember when it ended now.
It then became Tunatic.
Oh yeah,
Tunatic,
of course. I remember now. Yeah.
because it was GMTV Kids, so it was their output. Because we also shared the studio with the Disney Channel, because it was all
Mm,
kind of incorporated for
I
that.
see. Yes, because Digging It was very Disney orientated. Um, and then after that, you presented on Disney Channel. So was it just a natural progression because you were in the same studio,
Pretty
essentially?
much, yeah. I mean, we were in the same building, same offices, and as luck would happen, I don't know who had left. I don't know whether it was James McCourt that had gone from the Disney Channel. So I think they were looking for someone else. But that was brilliant, because that was live every day. So it kind of went full circle. It went from CBBC every day to the weekend stuff, and then back to Studio Disney, which was live every day from 4 o'clock until 7 on the Disney Channel. And there was loads of presenters on that were just having an absolute ball. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I've interviewed one or two people from Disney Channel. One of them being Nigel Mitchell. and he spoke of it very highly. Were you on around about the same time?
Yeah, I presented with, I mean, Nigel Mitchell, he had come from Nickelodeon. And I mean, he is brilliant. Just great fun, knows his stuff, and very, very good and very, very funny. He's a great guy.
Absolutely. And was did you, because you had to see a lot of Disney programs? Did you have a favorite Disney program that used to air on Dig It or Disney Channel?
I used to love, I used to love watching Recess because
I
I
love
loved
that.
the characters in Recess were all brilliant. You know, your Spinellis, and there was just everybody. If you took, your UK high school and made them all cartoon characters. They were all relatable, and I think that's what the key success was with Recess, because everybody knew someone like a Spinelli or like a TJ or all these kind of people. I think that's why it was so successful.
Yes, certainly, definitely. And I've asked this about like the other things, like with the Disney Channel. Like again, was there a top memory or like a really cool experience that you got to do through that?
Remember, we had to do well. We did all the kids awards, which was
Yeah.
always brilliant. Because that was once, I think we were at XL in London. I think another time was that Wembley? Did we do that? Or the Albert Hall, the Royal Albert Hall. But there was a time, because I'm such a big kid, that we were filming, we were pre-recording something, and something happened, something stupid happened, but it really, really tickled me. So I had that kind of fit of the giggles, and so I laughed and went, right, okay, like moving on. And the studio time was quite valuable, so they said, let's move on again, roll into the chord, and I'd lost it again, and I just couldn't do it. So then I got put out the studio. Now I'm the presenter. And myself and Abby. So I'm outside the studio doors, which I then found even it was like getting thrown out of the classroom. And I thought, hang on, I'm 28 years of age and I've been thrown out of my workplace for laughing. And that just made me laugh even more. And then I had my earpiece still in. I was still kind of mic'd up and had the earpiece thing. And I could hear them all talking about it. And they were going, why is it so funny? What's he laughing at? So then they repeated what had happened and what had been said. And I laughed again. And then of course the makeup, and I had my makeup on, and the tears were streaming, and that it was just absolutely brilliant. One of those kind of classic
Yeah.
bloopers, I suppose.
Yeah, certainly. It is interesting to hear about like the things that happen behind the scenes because normally children's television, what you see, it's all polished, it's all perfect, but it's always nice to hear those moments where it didn't always go quite right. And I guess it happens quite often with children's television, maybe more than grown-up telly, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, absolutely, absolutely, and that was one of my favorite things of recording. When you do it live, it's funny because you can laugh, but then you move on. But when you pre-record something, it's sometimes more difficult than live telly,
Yeah,
because you have a chance. You know, in the back of your head, this doesn't go well, I can do it again. Whereas if it's live, you're thinking, right, this has to go well. It was very
yeah.
different.
Certainly, and because Disney is an international brand, through being on the Disney Channel, did you get to do anything outside of the UK at all?
Yeah, we used to go over. We used to do a lot of things for the Fun Day Times, which was part of the Sunday Times
Oh yeah,
newspaper. So we'd get flown over to Italy to a new park that had opened, or we would go and do all these events and all these things. And I mean, as you said, Disney's such a huge um, universal brand, but it had gone full circle because when I was on the cruise ships before I'd started, I was working for Disney Cruise Line. So it was Disney that I worked for, and then went full circle and all the way around to work for the Disney Channel, which was nice.
yeah, yeah. And I suppose one of the perks of doing that, did you get to like try the theme parks out and stuff
Yeah,
like that?
you
And stuff.
get to do that, and you always, you kind of the Disney Channel or the Disney Shop or all
Yeah,
these kind of things, and events that were always on, because everybody knows if there was a Disney event. I remember going to the premiere of Brother Bear, the Disney film, and Phil Collins was just getting up and doing a bit of an impromptu set. I was thinking, this is amazing, getting to do these kind of things. It was brilliant.
not bad at all. Sounds like they
Yeah,
were really cool times.
it was great. It was just, I would highly recommend it. I think it's one of the best jobs in the world because it doesn't seem like a job, because you're getting so well looked after, um, and everybody loves it and everybody has a
Yeah,
great time.
sounds like great fun. So when did kind of your run with the Disney Channel finish? How long did you do with that?
I think I was on. I think in total it was all about 6 or 7 years in kids telly.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, the thing is, when I had started the Disney Channel, it was on every day, and then it went to. I think that was the kind of the start of the demise of that kind of kids telly side of it. Not that I joined. I don't mean that, but I didn't close that channel. But it kind of went into non-in-vision presenters, voiceover artists, and things. And then everything kind of slowed down and kind of changed. That's when all the digital telly stuff was coming in, and Saturday morning telly on ITV was Jeremy Kyle.
Mm. Yeah.
It changed quite a lot.
It certainly did. Certainly did. Sad times, but I'm
Yeah.
probably, I'm too old for it all now. So I would say that about my era, but I'm sure there are people, like recent news about, like the likes of CITV going to online only and losing the name and stuff like that. And the Disney Channel's now no more as a channel. It's all online, so all changes.
Shame, because everybody that you talk to, certainly of my age group, everybody has experience of kids telly. My parents had it. They grew up watching kids telly. I grew up watching kids telly. I became a kids telly presenter. Um, People of my age that have got kids, they've grown up watching kids telly. The nieces and the nephews and all that. But it's the next generation that won't grow up with a
Mm.
kids TV, and certainly that Saturday morning manic. Your Ministry of Mayhems, your Live and Kickings, your going live, all those kind of things. Just I've kind of gone from your
Yeah.
terrestrial mainstream telly, which is such a shame because it's great fun.
It is a shame, and one of the things I've said on this podcast over the years is that I feel like I'm kind of part of that last generation that would have that 3:30 to 5:30 block, and that's it. And if you missed your favourite program, that was it, unless you taped it.
Yeah.
My kind of kids' TV watching ended towards the end of the 2000s, so I do feel like that kind of last generation. And I say it's a shame, but I'm saying that from my own memories. I'm not sure if kids would care. It's like, because it's amazing that you can have a tablet or a computer, and
Yeah.
every single episode of, just an example, say Peppa Pig, is there to watch,
Yeah.
on loop. It's not you have to wait till next week or whatever. It's different times. It's more
Used to get
accessible.
kids running home. The kids were running home from school to watch kids
Mm.
telly,
Yeah.
and kids were often late to leave for school for watching kids telly. Kind of getting out the door, still eating breakfast on the way out the door because they were watching the breakfast show, and then they knew that was when they could see it. There was
Yeah.
no catch up, and
Yeah, definitely. It's changed a lot in the last 15, 20 years or so. So when you finished children's television, you continued in presenting, but more, I say grown up telly. You know what I mean?
yeah, I kind of continued with that. I went on to do some things down in London for Channel 5. I did all those kind of quiz program shoppy things. I did them for a while, and then I was on This Morning. They had a thing on the summer called The Hub, so I
Yeah,
presented The Hub for a while, and then came up to Scotland, came back to STV, and worked up here for a while, doing all the kind of presenting kind of bits, and still love it. It's great, and it's still nice. When I was out last week actually, and somebody said, "God, you used to be on CBBC, didn't you?" And I was like, how do you know that?
yeah,
I thought all those viewers were indoors now. It's amazing how many people still remember, which is lovely.
yeah.
Really, really nice.
What I found actually is with interviewing people is they say that they get recognised more now than they did at the time of when they were on kids' telly. Was that true for yourself, or did you get recognised a lot back in the old days too?
A bit of both, really, because the parents that were recognising, or back in the day, the kids would recognise you. I remember being in McDonald's, and this woman said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" As if I'd just stepped out the telly. I was like, "Well, I'm getting a McDonald's." The same as you. I'm just, but it was so nice that people would, and I've still got a lot of memorabilia things from CBBC. The black and the yellow branding, and
Yeah.
but even photos. And the first time someone ever drawn a picture of me and sent it in, and the cards and all these things. So those are the people that are now aged to recognise you.
Hmm.
because they're older, they've got kids, but it's such a nice thing to be associated with and to have been
Yeah.
a part of, um, because it's that, as we said before, it's that kind of dying institution thing, but it's great. I think when I counted everybody, I think I was the 21st presenter of CBBC. I think that's, and then there was a couple obviously after all that kind of thing, but it's such a nice thing to have been a part of.
Yeah, great stuff, and it's been lovely hearing the memories. So, what have you been up to more recently, kind of thing?
I'm doing a lot of stand up
Hmm.
comedy, a new kind of branching into that kind of, which is quite daunting, and going into clubs, comedy clubs, and standing up and trying to be funny and tell and basically, if you're going to stand up in a comedy club and be a comedian, you're telling people that you think you're funny, which is quite kind of
Yeah.
uh, scary at times. Do that. I do panto every year, stand up shows, my own cabaret things, some radio work, uh, and more kind of telly stuff, hopefully. So
Well, it's been great hearing your memories about children's TV back in the day, and all the best with your stand-up and future projects. And thank you for taking part, Liam.
thank you so much for having me. It's been absolutely brilliant taking a wee trip down memory lane. I've loved it.
Great stuff. Thank you. A big thanks to Liam for sharing his great memories there. And also a big thank you for listening as well. Now, I'll be back with one more episode for this series very, very soon. But until then, thank you and goodbye.